Hey there, folks. Very quick preamble before this episode of the Micflayers podcast. Unfortunately, my microphone, this lovely and frustrating blue snowball, which has served me well for many years, decided it was going to misbehave for approximately the first 30 minutes or so of the podcast. So I managed to fix it partway through, but up until that point, my audio is a little bit staticky and ranges from anywhere between acceptable and slightly below acceptable, but it does get better and it goes back to regular, proper, good audio quality after that. So I do apologize in advance, but hopefully you can enjoy the episode just as much. So without further ado, here is the true start to this episode of the Micflayers podcast. Thank you very much. Enjoy.
Hello, adventurers, and welcome to the Micflayers podcast.
Are you going to be finishing that intro?
No, actually this week, Martin, I've decided that particular portion of our intro is an optional feature, and therefore I'd elect not to do it.
Yeah. I see where you stick now.
I'm your host, Conor Martin, and joining me as always is my co-host, Mr. Martin O'Dwyer. Hey Martin, how are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. It's been a good day and a fairly alright week. So we're excited. What about yourself?
Not too bad. I've been planning some D&D stuff, as I usually am.
Very nice.
Pretty much in terms of my entire life. I've stuff for our upcoming session. I'm trying to get a one-shot together for a few people who have never played before. It's always new, always good bringing people into the fold for the first time.
One of us.
Yes. Join the collective.
Connor, why do you have eyeball clamps? No reason.
It's just these are drops to help you roll dice better.
Yeah. Ignore the restraints attached to the chairs. You won't need them for long.
Yeah. Soon you'll be willing. Yeah. No, I'm looking forward to it. I always really love bringing new people into the game. Just because it's fun to see how people, particularly if you've known the people for like a long time, it's fun to see what people come up with as characters, like because I feel like it's a question you never really ask yourself, but or any of your friends, maybe. But like if you've known someone for like 5-10 years, like there's a very good chance, not always, but there's a very good chance if you haven't gone to your friend and said, hey, if you were a random fantasy character, what would you be? Because that's the question you're posing to them when they make a character for the first time, and it's just fun to see what people latch on to, what sparked interest for them, which I always really love.
It was funny as you said that. I just had like a list of faces of like all the people I've known for like 5+ years just rattle through my brain one after another, and I was like, monk, rogue, sorcerer, warlock.
Yeah. It's always fun to see where people. It's like sometimes people land in weird places. Like for example, my sister is one of the people who's me playing in this one shot.
Oh, cool.
I've talked about D&D enough, and no one in my family knows really gets it. I'm trying to convince my parents to play it.
Oh,
I'm trying to convince my mom and my dad to let me run a one-shot for them. And I think if I can get Robin to play a game, and then she will advocate for me, then I think I can get my parents to do it.
You're trying to peer pressure your parents into playing D&D.
My dad has been brainwashed by the Big Bang Theory that only the most super of super nerds play D&D, and he doesn't want to wear a cloak and elf ears at the table.
Can you not just pull up like a picture of Travis Willingham and Joe Manganiello in their fucking in their Jack's Machina shirts, just be like, no, Dad, look.
Dad, Vin Diesel plays this game
because he's got family.
Terry, oh god, I forgot there's a thing at the moment. I said this to you guys.
I don't need advantage on this attack roll because I've got family.
I said it to you during the week. I've only ever seen the first two and Tokyo Drift, and I kind of want to just sit down and watch all of them start to finish, and just watch how incrementally more insane those they get.
It's not incremental.
It basically goes
It goes like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They're pulling a giant bank vault around the city with their cars, and then so say it's like a steady progression on a graph, right? It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah.
And then it keeps going, and then they add the rock to it, and at one point the rock fights a helicopter.
He fights a helicopter.
The rock fights a helicopter.
It's like that scene in the fourth Die Hard movie where he drives a car up into the helicopter. And the man's all like, "You just killed that helicopter with a car." He's like, "Yeah, ran out of bullets." It's the most action movie line ever.
I have so much more time for Fast and the Furious than I do for any modern Die Hard. I feel like should have stopped Die Hard at 2. It was
no, 3 is good.
What's 3 again?
2 is the one in the airport. 3 is the one where they're running around New York City.
I thought I thought 2 was the one with Sam Jackson. Yeah,
3 is the one with Sam Jackson. 3 is great. That's Die Hard with a Vengeance.
Yeah.
Die
Hard.
That's a great one. Yeah.
Die Hard is it Die Hard? What's the second one called? It's just Die Hard 2, isn't it?
It's just called Die Hard 2. Yeah.
And then you know what I was thinking of? I was thinking one of the latter ones where it's like A Good Day to Die Hard.
Oh, okay. So the first one is called Die Hard. Then you have Die Hard 2,
Die
Harder.
Harder.
And then you have Die Hard with a Vengeance. And then the fourth one is called Live Free or Die Hard.
Yeah.
And then the most recent one, I believe, which is in 2013, is A Good Day to Die Hard.
Yeah, I think that's one where he has to rescue his son from the Russians or something.
Yeah, I've never seen it, but that's like one of the...
Because it looks like trash.
Yeah. I honestly, I don't even think I've seen the entire... Oh, it's actually sorry, the fourth one is also called it was Die Hard 4.0, I think is how it was advertised in Europe.
Get to...
What's the point of the... You wouldn't put the .0 in there if it's just going to be a full round number.
I just can't like...
That's my problem with that movie, Mark. It's mathematical take. that's where I draw the line.
Yeah, because I can mathematically prove it's a heap of shite.
Yeah. I don't even think I've seen the entirety of that one. All I know is that one line when he drives the car up the ramp and destroys the helicopter.
Is it, did you just kill a car? Did you just kill a helicopter with a car? And it's like, I ran out of bullets. Yeah. Oh, God.
The first 3 are solid. And then it goes downhill after that. So you shouldn't milk the franchise too much.
The quality drops faster than Hans Gruber did.
Way topical. Martin, guess what we're talking about today as our topic?
It's something optional, I think.
It's optional class features. So this came out in Tasha's a few months back. We talked about it, I believe, briefly in our Tasha's video.
I think we covered it.
But we didn't dive into these too much. We're just going to talk about it quite generally.
Yeah.
And I'd like to go through them with you now, and I think we should probably jump in because we do have a lot to cover.
Sure.
Yeah, so basically, optional class features. These are features that, if you actually read the little blurby thing in front of all of these, what it says. I'm going to open it.
I've got it here if you want me to do it.
Yes, go ahead.
You gain class features in the player's handbook when you reach certain levels in your class. This section offers additional features that you can gain as whatever your certain class is. Unlike the features in the player's handbook, you don't gain these features automatically. Consulting with your DM, you decide whether to gain a feature in this section if you meet the level requirement noted in the feature's description. These features can be selected separately from one another. You can use one, both, or none of them.
Which is pretty much a good explanation of it, yeah. So these are basically optional features. Some of them replace existing features. Some of them are just additional things you can take that pop out as class in certain ways. Honestly, I like pretty much all of them. I don't think there's any of them that I out and out hate. I think in one way or another, they're all beneficial. So let's jump in. There is 2, and Martin, you will be the expert on these because you are currently playing a Barbarian. There is none for Artificer, as you pointed out. That although Artificer appears in Tasha's Cauldron, because it's a relatively new class, they don't have any optional features there.
Yeah.
But first of all, we have Barbarian. There's 2 that show up for that.
Indeed.
We have Primal Knowledge, and we have Instinctive Pounce. So Primal Knowledge, pretty straightforward. You basically just get to choose some additional proficiencies when you reach certain levels. So you get another one at 3rd and 10th.
Yeah.
And actually it's just 3rd and 10th. You get 2 more proficiencies and you gain them as you level. And they have to be from the pre-existing selection of our proficiencies.
Off the top of my head, I think that's Athletics, Intimidation, Perception.
Survival, Perception. Survival? Yeah, Survival is one of them. I have them here.
Maybe History as well?
Animal Handling, Athletics, Intimidation, Nature, Perception, Survival.
I should have known that. I took that I took Animal Handling for that.
You did actually.
Yeah. No, that's good. Yeah, that look, like barbarians don't get a whole heap of skills raw. So anything that gives you more skills, so you've stuff to do outside combat, I'm always a fan of.
I talked about it last week about how playing Aratok, my Triton Storm Heralds, I fell in love with barbarians, and I finally got the appeal. One of the things I do feel holds back barbarians is their lack of proficiencies, because I feel like they're so narrow in what you can select and stuff that it is a little bit like, how'd you put it? It can feel a little bit like you're almost being skewed towards that dumb barb thing where all you can do is hit things. You hit things and you take hits. Whereas with this, you get a few extra things. I mean, there's some good stuff in perception, survival, nature, animal handling. There's some really good stuff to be like a good tracker / hunter or something like that if you're a barb. And if you have the option of picking more skills, you can force flesh that out nicely.
Yeah.
I really like this one. I think one of the few things barbs don't have going for them is a lot of skills. So this just nicely fleshes that out. The second one they have here is Instinctive Pounce. At 7th level, it's part of a bonus action when you enter your rage. You can move up to half your speed, which is really, really cool. That to me is like a battle charge.
Yeah.
Which is nice because you can cover more ground. And like barbarians are a melee class first and foremost. You pretty much only, I think. I don't know if you can't really build. You see, they miss out on a lot of features if you
can actually do a really effective ranged ancestral guardian, because it just says you take mobility. So you take mobile and you take a load of javelins. And what you do is you just run across the field tagging people with javelins, applying your ghosts to whoever's the big bad, and staying out of range so that the party can wail on them, and then you go and fight someone else.
Interesting.
Yeah,
that's actually pretty good.
Not my style, but
no. But I mean, I quite like this.
Oh yeah, totally.
The first thing that comes to mind when I see this is, and kind of overall with option class features, is I think about how I would implement these in a game. So I'll go through it as we go through more classes. Some of them I feel like I have no problem with someone taking this right from the get-go. Like for example, Primal Knowledge, I'd have no problem adding that in immediately if someone wanted to use it. I don't feel like barbs are particularly weak without it. I still feel like they're a very well-rounded class even without that. But if someone said to me, "Hey, I'd like to play this because of a couple of skills I'd like to do and buff out the character on a more skill way rather than combat," I'd be like, yeah, absolutely go for it. But I do like the Instinctive Pounce, and that makes me think like that it's almost like a battle tactic, and it makes me think like, okay, I just think about it narratively and how we would learn that, and I think some of these features can be described almost like rewards. Instead of giving someone a new magic item, give the barbarian in your class, if they're at 7th level, or if, for example, if they're at 6th level, they finish an arc and then they reach 7th level, be like, cool, you also get this feature. I'm giving you this feature as a reward as part of it. It's almost like a magic item, but it's something you can just do instinctually. I think that's we might talk about rewards and rewarding players in another thing more expansively. But I feel like that's a really, really cool way of rewarding a player to be like, yeah, hey, you've been looking at this list of abilities you get. Here's an extra one that I'm just passing it.
Yeah, if you're not using them, if you're not using them straight away, because honestly, I think I next camp as soon as these came out in Tasha's, I showed them to my players, and it was like, take any of these you want.
Yeah. It's really, really good. I think there's something, when I think about this one in particular narratively, I think about, like, for example, if Lug, your barbarian character, was doing a mission in his country, and then he was kind of taking orders from maybe his former master that he trained him to fight. I think it'd be kind of cool if after they finish that quest, he comes up to him and goes, your skills improved. I think I have 1 or 2 things I can teach you. And then you give them this ability, almost like your master taught you how to charge in and rage at the same time or something like that.
Yeah.
It could be really cool just from a narrative perspective as well.
This one, the wording of this one always confuses me a little, right? So does that mean, so say like I have 40, Luke has 40 feet of speed raw. Yeah. So does that mean I bonus action rage and I have an additional 20?
That's actually a good question. As part of your bonus action, you enter your rage.
Because as I would read that would just be, okay, it's my bonus action. Like the way that reads as raw to me is just as part of the bonus action, you get to move 20 feet. That takes that out of your movement, which is a little.
I see where you're coming from. I do see where you're coming from.
But
I don't think that's the intent, because if it was, it's like,
it's a
okay,
bit
you have movement,
shit,
you
like.
action, you bonus action. If you take 20 feet of movement here,
Yeah.
and as a bonus action, you can also take 20 feet of movement, you still have 40 feet of movement, so
But
it doesn't
you could-
benefit you at all.
Yeah, I know. That's what I was saying. Like, you could do that anyway. You don't need, and you could do that without wasting a bonus action.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think the intent of this, and I get where you're coming from with the phrasing, but I think the intent is definitely you get an additional 20 feet of movement when you initially rage.
I'm totally down with that. It's just
Yeah.
the way it's worded has always confused me. Just because it doesn't specify whether that's part of your total speed or an additional.
Yeah, I get you. Yeah,
Yeah.
I would think additional personally.
Yeah.
Because it wouldn't be much of a benefit. Yeah, the other way around.
It'd be a bit lackluster.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
Up next we have bards.
Yes.
Bards did a couple of interesting things.
The spellcasters really luck out a lot when it comes to when it comes to the additional the optional features.
So bards, most spellcasters just get an expanded spell list first of all.
Mhm.
So bards get a bunch of other stuff. A bunch of spells which I feel are on brand. You get Color Spirit Command, Enlarge, Reduce, Mirror Image, Intellect Fortress, Rarity's Telepathic Bond, Hero's Beast, Prismatic Wall. These are all slow mass healing work. These are all things that I feel like bards are kind of like, I feel you could argue the quintessential healing, or not healing type, but the quintessential support class. And I feel like all of these are very much support-based things. It's support or charm-based things, but I feel like that's totally within a bard's wheelhouse.
8th level Antipathy Sympathy. That's really cool.
I actually don't know what that spell does.
Like attracts and repels certain creatures.
Okay. Yeah, there's some good stuff in there. I mean, like, there's some ones. I love that. Is it Rari's her telepathic bond? That just makes me think of like a magical World War II radio operator.
Yeah.
So that one guy who's got the big backpack that's a full radio. Because he can basically set up telepathic things with everybody and kind of coordinate a group. Pardon me. I think it's very cool.
That's really cool. You don't need a common language either. I'm just reading the spell.
But yes, it's because it's telepathy, right?
Yeah, but I know about you, but I think in English.
Well, yeah. That was the thing. I was looking that up, or someone was talking about something recently about how when you start learning another language, or if you're living in a country speaking a language that is not your own, someone talked about how they were living in somewhere in Europe, and they're an English speaker, and then the people they were with were also speaking English because it was the most common language people had, regardless of whether you're from Germany or France or Spain or something like that. And so people would just speak English as the common language they all had. And then because they were doing it so frequently, one person describing this said that they overheard two people talking. One person was from like France and one person was from like Belgium or something like that. Oh, that makes no sense because they both had French, never mind. Point is, they were both speaking English, and they're like, hey, do you dream in English? And they were like, oh yeah, no, I started dreaming like that after a few months of being here. And I'm like, wow. Because it's a whole I won't spoil anything. No, in fact, I won't get too into it. Point is, your brain can be wired differently based on the language you speak. You think about things in different contexts and ways. It's super interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was dreaming in it or thinking in a different language can genuinely rewire how you perceive things. That's a bit off topic, but yes, spells are nice. Yeah, I do think these bard spells are really good and on brand for what bards should and can already do, but it expands things nicely, I think.
Yeah, this next one is really good.
Yeah, so magical inspiration. If a creature, so basically, if a creature with a bardic inspiration die casts a spell that restores hit points or deals damage, that creature can roll the die and choose a target to affect by the spell, or choose a target that is already affected by the spell, and add the number rolled to the amount of hit points regained or the damage dealt. That's pretty nice. You're adding basically, it scales up. Obviously, it starts at a D6, but it scales up to D12 eventually. That kind of makes bards a bit more combat effective because they're healing better and damaging better.
It feels like a very natural extension of what the bardic inspiration can do anyway, because you already do that for attack rolls and like spell attacks and saving throws and stuff like that as well.
And checks and stuff, yeah.
It just feels like just a natural expansion into what they kind of should be able to do, really.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It's nice. It's simple. It's not too complicated, but I think it does it pumps things out nicely. I think the spells overshadow a little bit. I think it's not because at higher levels, even if you're getting a D12
Yeah.
Bard die on top of I don't know, a fireball or something like that, it's not a huge bump. And you might only roll a 2 or something like that as well.
I only just noticed with this optional features, bards now get Hero's Feast.
Yeah, exactly. Which again, again, some of these spells when we go through other classes, I feel like they should have had some of these spells to begin with. To kind of jump ahead just for a little bit, clerics as part of their expanded spell list get Power Word Heal. They didn't have that before. Only bards had that.
That's a weird one.
I realized this today because I was like, surely clerics had that already. They're the healer class. No, only bards had it.
Or at least life clerics, you think, would have it.
Exactly, but yeah, it was only bards. So it makes perfect sense that they would expand into that. So the last one we have is Bard Versatility. Whenever you reach a level that grants you an ability score improvement feature, you can do one of the following, representing a change in focus to your skills and magic. Replace one of the skills you've chose for your expertise feature with another skill proficiency that isn't benefiting from expertise already. Or change one cantrip you learned from the spellcasting feature with another cantrip from the Bard spell list. This was a wake-up call to me. I always just assumed, and I never really read too much into it, I don't think it breaks the game or anything, but I always just assumed that, and you'll see this going through a lot of different people, a lot of the spellcasters are now allowed to swap out their cantrips. Apparently that's not a thing you can do. I never knew that. I've always just been like, I would have always assumed you can swap out cantrips in the same way you can do your other spells. So for example, a sorcerer has to level before they can swap it out. I would have no problem with a sorcerer leveling and then also swapping out some new cantrips and stuff like that as well.
Yeah, Jesus, when because I was playing Paladins don't have cantrips, that's a bad example.
But yeah, I mean, like, I'm pretty sure I let Mike do it plenty last game. I don't think it breaks the game. I think it's... But when you go back and you read over cantrips, it says you learn X amount of cantrips based on the table. That's it. You don't get to swap them. You basically you learn them. It's like if you're a sorcerer, and it doesn't sans the line where it says when you level up, you can choose to learn a different interplay. It doesn't have that. So the rules is written that is the way. But again, I've always this is the way.
This is the way.
But I've always thought that you could do that anyway naturally. But yeah. Interesting. I'm glad that clarification is there. It doesn't make much impact because I would have ran it differently anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty interesting.
Also, a great art of a dragonborn bard there. I'm always curious with races that have clawed hands, playing a stringed instrument.
Yeah. Surely it'd be easier.
But like, if you have claws that do a d6 slashing damage when you hit someone,
you probably go through a lot of strings.
Yeah. You know.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
There's multiple packs of strings in your back pocket for
titanium strings,
adamantine strings.
Oh god!
And
you only use them to play heavy metal.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Optional class features for cleric. Again, expanded spell list. So everything here is totally on brand in this expanded spell list. Aura of Vitality, Spirit Shroud, Aura of Life, or Purity. Summon Celestial, absolutely. Sunbeam, Sunburst, and Power Word Heal. Again, Power Word Heal would have assumed, but yeah.
Sorry, this is my very first time ever reading the spell Sunburst, and oh my god.
Yeah, I like that they've included these, because I often think of, like...
that's some proper biblical, like, calling down the wrath of God stuff.
It's like, they all any stuff that does, like, all the...
radiant damage, and blinded for a minute. Oh, and it's a con save as well. Oh, if I was a cleric, I'd be dropping this on every other spellcaster. It's
also a 60-foot radius centered on a point within range. That with 150 foot, that's insane.
Oh, man,
that's a 120-foot diameter area that you were doing 12d6 radius. You'd incinerate an army with that.
Oh, that's such a great spell. I love that spell.
Yeah.
Oh,
I like that they've included Sunbeam and Sunburst, because honestly, I see a lot of, like, I don't know, I feel like the sun and the moon tend to occupy a lot of Pantheon things. Like, for example, when I was playing Gavin's game a few months back, nope, that's not a few months back, that's well over a year ago. Fuck this pandemic.
Yeah.
But when I was playing in Gavin's game there, his primary god, he had two, it was two primary gods, and there was a sun and the moon. And then all of their offspring, children, became the other parts of Pantheon.
You get that with a lot in like world, in like old school, like old world religions, and like mythologies, where like the sun god is usually like the father god, and then the moon goddess is usually like the mother goddess, and then I think the Aztecs might have had that. I'm not sure.
They definitely had some reverence for the sun.
Oh yeah. Sure. The Celts absolutely worship the sun. They absolutely worship. Like we were sun worshippers, 100%. Like back in the day.
That's because we only got it for about a week and a half, a year, man.
Yeah.
We have another cleric feature called Harness Divine Power. This is a similar thing that Paladins.
Cool. This is so cool.
This is pretty good. It's pretty good. So basically, as a bonus action, you can touch your holy symbol, utter a prayer, or regain one expended spell slot, the level which cannot be higher than half your proficiency round. So I was checking this because there is some limitations on this.
Mm-hmm.
So you can get because you use your channel divinity to fuel this.
Yes.
You get maximum of 3 channel divinities. I think when you hit level 83 that you can do. But here's the thing: you get channel divinities back on short rest or long rest, right?
Mm-hmm.
You do not get the ability to do this back on short rest. So even if you short rest, if you use it 3 times and then you short rest, have uses of your channel divinity back, but you are still limited at having maximum 3 of these channel divinity for spell swaps a day, which I think is fine. I think because again, there'll be nothing really stopping you from taking a bunch of short rests and getting back a ton of spell slots, just from burning all your channel divinities if you're at a very high level. But I feel like it's good. It's so the number of times. Oh yeah, so basically you can get back out. It just gives you a little more flexibility. It's almost actually, it's almost like you're doing arcane recovery as a wizard.
Yeah.
It's kind of it's an equivalent to that, which I believe wizards get arcane recovery at second level as well. So I mean, it adds up with that, and it kind of gives clerics the option to get back some of their slots.
Yeah, no, totally. I think anything like that, particularly for your long rest casters, where you can kind of it gives you something that you can do on a short rest, other than just get back your channel divinity, because I do believe channel divinity is a short rest.
But yeah, the regular channel divinity, yeah, you're used to that.
Yeah, so it gives you something to do, because I felt it a few times when I was playing Eru, because all my stuff came back on a long rest. Aside from my Vow of Enmity, which was actually very, very good and came back on a short rest. But like, yeah, there'd be times where like I haven't used any of my channel divinities, and we're taking a short rest. I haven't really taken much damage. Cool. I guess I'll just chill for an hour while everyone else does stuff.
Yeah.
It's that kind of a thing. Yeah, I think it's. I like that it scales. I like an awful lot that it scales.
We talked about this before. That we're seeing a recurring trend with newer D&D stuff, where things are tied to your proficiency, which naturally scales as your character does. Therefore, you get more uses of it, or this ability is slightly more powerful because of X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's really, really good to have that kind of to have that level of versatility, or just that level of scaling inbuilt, rather than having to either like kind of jerry rig something yourself together with your DM or something like that. And yeah, again, look, anything that gives you more options, and again, these are options, these aren't mandatory. Like, you don't have to take them. You can. It specifically calls out, if you just want to take one of these things, you can.
Yeah, you can take one of them. You can take all of them. You can take, absolutely, and that goes for all the classes. The same blurb appears at the start of every class. But it does say, discuss with your DM, because obviously your DM might not want you to take them, or may want you to earn it by doing a quest, and that's how you unlock this ability.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think it's all fine, depending on how you want to implement it. But I do think that like a lot of them, they don't. I hesitate to say they buff out the class. They offer a little more versatility. I feel like there's very few straight up power increases in any of these.
Yeah. I don't feel like. Yeah, exactly. It doesn't feel like you're just bolting on raw power. It usually feels like something that's maybe not missing, but like quality. That's exactly the phrase I'm searching for. They're quality of life buffs.
It's more for like housekeeping more than straight power output.
Yeah, absolutely. And like nothing here feels like broken, if you get me. Do you know, I'm not.
No.
There's nothing I've looked at while we were going over these additional options, and I'm like, oh, how did that make it past Wizards? You know.
Yeah.
Looking at you, what's the monk one where you can slap people for 10d10 necrotic damage? The spirit monk one where you get extra arms.
Oh,
Way of the astral self.
Astral self.
That one I'm always like, how did Wizards what? But yeah, no, it's really good. Should we move on to the next one?
Next one's just cantrip versatility, which is the same thing again. You can swap out your cantrips. I believe this is whenever you reach a level where you get an ability score improvement.
Yeah, that seems to be a new thing they're adding in as well. Because usually before, where you could swap things out, it'd be when you gain a level in this class. Now it's when you gain a level in this class where you get an ability score improvement.
Yeah. To be fair, clerics don't have a terrible amount of cantrips, and I feel like you'd be like wanting, I don't know, you'd be wanting to go, I need these 5 now and these 5 another time and stuff like that. I feel like I don't think in personally you'd be swapping cards every often, so I feel like that's okay. Again, though, it's honestly, again, if someone wanted to do it at their level, I don't think I'd protest too much. If the player said, look, I don't use the cantrip at all, I kind of took it because I thought it'd be better or more useful, and it's really situational.
Yeah, totally. Like I would even just allow that. And like if a player came to him and was like, look, I never use this cantrip. I regret taking it. I wasn't really sure of what it did when I initially took it. Could I swap this out? And I'd be like, yeah, do you know what? Okay, no problem.
It's nice to put it in some hard rules, just in case you're dealing with a stickler and stuff like that. But I feel like, personally, I think, you and I agree on this. If someone's not having fun with something, let's address that. Let's see if we can just tweak it or something, or do something just maybe make it just a bit more enjoyable. Exactly. At the end of the day, game got to be having fun playing it.
Exactly, and 90% of the time, it's like a tiny, small change will fix that.
Exactly, yeah. And I find rarely are these things, a big power changes or anything like that. It's usually like it's usually I find people don't want to. They don't want to be like, hey, can this thing do a ton of extra damage? What they want is to say, hey, I got this thing. I actually swapped it for this other feature, or can I change my subclass? Can I change this feature I took here? Can I do this? And again, I think in most cases, I'm okay with most of that. I like when there's a narrative reason for it, but if there isn't, and I'm kind of at a point where you really want to play this other thing, and I can't find a good reason to make it happen, but let's just make it happen, and we'll put a bit of filler over the crack, put it out as best we can.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. No, I was just going to say, I think it's always good just to be
flexible. No, after you, sir.
No, after you. No, I just think it's always good to be flexible as a DM and just like work with someone. Just like if like I said, if you're not having fun, the whole point, the only reason we're here is to have fun, and play these games and tell stories. We're literally sitting around a table telling stories to entertain each other and just determining how well those stories go by dice roll. So like, yeah, absolutely anything like that where you can make a small change that will drastically improve someone's enjoyment of the game, go nuts.
Yeah. It's I feel like we've covered this before, but it's no one person's game, DM included. It's not the DM's game. It's also not any one player's game. It's everybody, players and DM at the table, and everyone should be enjoying themselves. I think it's got to be the give and take there. I think, like you said, be flexible. There's also times when you need to be a bit stern sometimes, and be like, look, this is the way the ruling is, or this is how it happens. Sometimes a monster will attack a player, and you're like, look, I don't want to do this, but you just hit him for 3d8 damage. Yeah. He's gonna want to hit you back, and the player only has 6 hit points left. But you can't justify not doing it, because then it's gonna fake, and you're not really being true to the game.
Yeah.
So there's times when you gotta be hard, times where you gotta be loose about it. But that's all part of the DM package. The last ability here for clerics, Blessed Strike. This isn't this is not a big power increase. But it basically just lets you swap out your Divine Strike spell casting feature that all players get at level 8, and instead you can when you make a weapon attack or you can pass a cantrip, you can add an additional 1d8 radiant damage once per turn. So it's basically the same feature. They've just changed it so that it's guaranteed radiant instead of the very class. No treachery gets poison. I think not treachery. I think that will be treachery paladin that came out a few years ago.
Yeah.
The trickery cleric domain gets poison. I know the nature domain gets lightning, cold, or fire, which is really, really cool.
4 elements.
Forge gets fire.
Yeah, Forge is fire. Yeah, I like that. The option that you can have the option to just use Blessed Strikes. That might be particularly good. Say if you're fighting a lot of undead in your campaign, and like a lot of undead have resistance to like fire or cold or I'll actually just straight up just a lot of creatures have elemental resistances once you get to a high enough level. Nearly everything has resistance to like acid, fire, lightning, cold, thunder. Like.
And we're back.
Hey.
Some technical issues there, folks. You might have picked up a little bit of static on my mic. Hopefully it's clear now. I just had the most frustrating 20 minutes of my life trying to resolve that. And thank you, random guy on the internet, who informed me that the Blue Snowball mic connection is actually the same as most printers, because I stole the cable from my printer and we seem to be okay now. Martin spent the last 20 minutes watching league tournaments, and his team was winning pretty well, so...
Having a
there's a dichotomy.
Yeah, dichotomy. Yeah, dichotomy. Yeah. So druids.
So, yeah. Druids.
Okay.
Druids. Okay, so additional things.
Optional features for druids.
That's the one. It's weird for me because this seems like it seems like a lifetime ago we last spoke about this, but it was actually 20 minutes, and for our viewers, it was all of 6 seconds.
Yeah.
So yeah, druids actually have some really cool stuff here that I really, really like. So the first one they have is additional spells. Most of the spells, the additional stuff is they're elemental spells, and I'm like, yeah, obviously these should definitely be druid. As far as I'm concerned, druids are the elemental casters, and I feel as though it's a no-brainer that druids would get the spells they get here. One second now. We got Continual Flame. Elemental Weapon, Fire Shield, Summon Elemental, Cone of Cold, which I can't believe they didn't have, Flesh to Stone, very cool, Incendiary Cloud.
I love Incendiary Cloud.
There's a bunch, and then there's a few others like Summon Beast, Order of Vitality, Summon Fae, which is really cool.
Summon Elemental.
They have Divination now, which is a ritual, which I really, really like, because I wanted to build a Circle of Stars druid. Who was really like, she was all about like reading the stars for prophesizing things. So the fact that augury and divination, they don't need to, are now in this, that kind of lets me build her out more as a fortune teller.
I'll actually get those with Lug when I hit 10th level in Barb. Oh, Clairvoyance. Sorry, it's Clairvoyance and augury is what I get.
Yeah. Still really good. That's really cool. And like I said, the spells are kind of no-brainers for the most part.
I like augury being on the druid spell list especially as well, because that like augury is the practice of predicting the future by examining the entrails of a sacrificed animal. That's what augury is.
I think it can be like throwing bones into a bowl and seeing the patterns. And
I mean, like real world, like augury, that is what augury is you like sacrifice an animal and read its entrails to tell the future.
Very cool. And
that's very, very druid. Like that's because animal we know they did animal sacrifice and stuff like that. In Norse cultures, I believe you'd have like a ninth of whatever your herd or whatever, because 9 is a holy number in Norse mythology. So like you would take like a ninth of your stock or your flock or your herd, and you would sacrifice them to the gods. So I just love that. The next thing druids get, I actually really, really like, and I think all druids should have it.
Oh yeah, that's exactly what I thought when I saw it. So this is called Wild Companion. You gain the ability to summon a spirit that assumes an animal form. As an action, you can expend the use of your wild shape feature to cast the Find Familiar spell without components. I'm baffled. I think I was looking this up a while back. I'm baffled druids don't have Find Familiar to begin with. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure in past editions of D&D, druids used to have companions.
I think they had like animal companion as like part of their stat block or something. But again, we're both 5e babies, so please feel free to educate us in the comments.
But yeah, that's it baffles me that they don't have it. This is one of the ones that I would have no problem putting in right from the get-go. You know, prerequisite. No, the player doesn't have to come to me and we don't have to work out a story for it. You should just be able to do this. I think as an inherent druid. So I really like it. The creature is Fey instead of Beast, which is that makes sense. The one thing I don't like is the limitation, which is the familiar disappears after a number of hours equal to half your druid level. So max time you can have that for 10 hours.
Yeah.
I'm not crazy about that. I mean, the Find Familiar spell isn't particularly powerful in and of itself. I feel like you should just be able to cast it, keep the creature around like you normally do,
I'd imagine some of that limitation might be to do with maybe not stepping on the toes of the Wildfire Druid.
Maybe, but even though the familiar you summon with this is really only something you can scout with and stuff like that, which is why I like it. It's not so much like the Wildfire Druid can do a load of other stuff, Does the Wildfire Druid have a scout ability where it can send its creature out and see through its eyes and stuff?
No, but you choose you choose the form of your spirit, like so you can take a bird form and send it out.
Yeah, and it can report back to you and stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, I like narratively I have it that Mandroy can understand his fire spirit Mushu, but Mushu takes the form of a tabby cat, so he speaks. It's Han and Chewie. Mushu speaks to Mandroy in and then Mandroy's like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. I love it. I think it's a great addition, and like I said, I think it fits phenomenally well to the point where I'm like, how did this not make the first revision of the class?
The art under it is sick as well. I really liked it. It's very Native American. I love it.
I was going to say it kind of reminds me of some of the art in Icewind Dale.
Yes, there's touchy Inuit to it as well. Yeah,
it's very cool.
Oh, do you know what it actually really reminds me of? It's like a browner version of like the Water Tribe from
which they're Inuit base in their way they're designed. So totally. I love it. I think it's really cool. Next up, they have Cantrip Versatility. We've come across that already. Again, something I would have just allowed, but this is one of the ones that would have totally been up for anyone using, really. Up next, we have Fighter. There's a lot of good stuff here.
There is.
I mean, there's only two things, but they offer a lot of options. So we have more fighting styles, which is, I think fighting styles are kind of they're kind of the bread and butter of a fighter. I feel like they kind of set your fighter up for who they're going to be. But there's some really unique ones here that I feel you can have some great stuff with. They have blind fighting, which gives you a blind sight out to a range of 10 feet. I so badly want to build a fighter who is genuinely blind, or a monk who's genuinely blind, and then kind of like Chirrut Imwe in you haven't seen Star Wars Rogue One, have you?
No, but I was just going to say Daredevil.
Like Daredevil. Donnie Yen plays a character named Chirrut Imwe.
I think I've seen what he looks like, but I've not seen Rogue One.
Yeah, and he is totally blind, and at the first scene he comes in, he walks out into a little plaza area with a bunch of stormtroopers, and he's just like, I am one with the Force, and the Force is with me. And then one of them goes to strike him, and he just knows because of the Force, and he moves and misses, and then a bunch of them start firing at him, and he gets this one guy in a bit of a lock, and he pivots your man into the place of all the blaster fire, and I'd say about 8 or 10 blaster shots come at him. He's just moving your man around like that, and your man is taking all the hits. It's a really good. I'll send you the scene after the podcast. It's great. It's really brilliant. But I'd love to do something like that. And blind fighting is it's really cool like that.
Additional perk, being able to see invisible creatures when you're blind fighting as well.
Exactly. That's the blind sight thing is, or in darkness again. It'd be really really cool to take this, because there is a new feat now where you can get a fighting style as part of a feat. It'd be really cool to take this as like a monk, for example, like a shadow monk. Drop a darkness, and then go blind fighting people with this ability, that'd be really, really cool.
Yeah.
There's Interception. When a creature you can see hits... words. When a creature you can see hits a target other than you within 5 feet of your attack, you can use your reaction to reduce the damage dealt. The target takes by a d10 plus proficiency bonus. You must be wielding a shield or a simple or martial weapon. That's pretty cool. You can that's a really good supportive thing. I think we talked last week about the... or maybe the week before, about the knight, the purple dragon knight subclass. That kind of one is really good for blocking allies and stuff, and this fits in perfectly. That if you wanted to be the person who can, that would work really well with Lug as well, because Lug carries a shield and he already has a different ability that lets him block damage.
Yeah, exactly. No, it wouldn't work alone because I already have my reaction being used by so many things, and I have like have a better version of this built into my kit.
That's true. I suppose it would only really be beneficial if you weren't raging, but you're almost always raging. So, Barb's got a rage. What are you gonna do? There's also the superior technique. I'd actually choose some battle master.
I like that one a lot actually. You learn one maneuver. Yeah. I wish it was more than one.
We've had this discussion about the martial initiate feat, where that gives you one die and two things you can do, which just mathematically does not make sense.
No.
And then this one gives you one die and one thing, which makes a bit more sense, but also
just give me 2 die and 2 things to do.
I just want 2 die and 2 thing. Is that so much to ask? Yeah. It's okay. Here's the thing, right? This kind of if you took that feat and this fighting style, that kind of fills out the feat and thing and rounds it a little better. You have 2 dice and 3 options. I'm a little more okay with that.
But then you're using an ASI to prop up your bad fighting style.
That's the thing. Like, you shouldn't have to burn your fighting style and your ASI just to get a couple of extra moves, which aren't even really that good. So yeah, it's
also not like you're short on ASIs if you're a fighter, really.
No, the only time I could potentially see myself taking this is if I was already a battle master and I wanted to get 2 extra uses of my superiority die or something like that. Other than that, not super keen on it. Thrown weapon fighting.
Yes.
Last week, for those of you who didn't listen, you should totally go back and listen to it. Myself and Martin talked about some characters. We played a game we play every now and again where we prompt each other with a race, class, and feat, or race, class, and background, and the other person on the spot has to come up with a character. I came up with a character named Deacon, who is a halfling blood hunter who specialized in using his crimson right on flaming daggers and throwing them. And I think that the thrown weapon fighting works super well with that. Basically, it adds a +2 to the damage roll, which is really, really nice. This is actually really, really good if you take it with is it the ranged? Yes. So if you take the fighting style of what's it called? It's a bow. It's the ranged attack one.
Yeah. Archery. The archery fighting style. Yeah.
And I think I think the ruling on that is if you make a ranged attack, you can add a +2 to the attack roll. This lets you add a +2 to the damage roll, so it almost fills out the opposite side of that if you take these in tandem.
Yeah.
It gives you a +2 to all your damage rolls, which is not major, but that stacks up nicely. There is a feature here where it says you can draw the weapon that has a thrown property as part of the attack.
That's so cool.
It's cool, but I don't see that coming up terribly often unless you're in a situation where you have your hands up. What I picture immediately is, okay, I've got my hands up. I'm like, hey guys, it's all good, blah, blah, blah. In a single swift action, I can draw a dagger from my sleeve and throw it instantly. I find the drawing and stowing of weapons doesn't come up terribly often unless you're discussing early level 2 weapon fighting. Yeah.
But like that would get you past that, and you get fighting styles at level 2. So I would find value.
Oh, good call actually. Yeah. Well, it has to have the thrown property, but if you want to go double daggers or something like that, yeah. Totally.
I've a belt with 4 daggers on it. Awesome.
Yeah.
And it cost me about 15 silver all in all.
And finally, we have unarmed fighting. I absolutely adore this because finally we have a feasible way to make a mundane, non-magic brawler character, and it is this. So basically, it lets you do d6 plus your strength mod damage, bludgeoning with your unarmed strikes. If you aren't wielding any weapons or a shield, when you make the attack roll, D6 becomes a D8, so you can just be going D8s all over the place. And then at the start of your turn, if you're grappling someone, you just do a D4 bludgeoning. This is what I was trying to find last week or 2 weeks ago when we talked about this.
Yes, sir.
About building the grappler character. This just does a flat D4 at the start of your turn if you're grappling someone. Not a lot, but again, that stacks up. And if you take something like Tavern Brawler or something like that, and you're grappling people constantly, then you're just doing little incremental bits of damage there the longer you hold on. If you do a strength build character, there's a very good chance you can hold on to them for a very, very long time.
Particularly if they're not a strength character.
Yeah, particularly if they're not a strength character. We also have Martial Versatility. This lets you replace fighting styles. When you hit one of those ASI levels, you can use the fighting style or replace the fighting style. Sorry, just going to reset the timer again because I forgot to do that before you came back in. Lets you swap that out, or lets you swap Battle Master maneuvers if you have any, which is good in case
It's
take
not an or.
defeat.
You can do both.
Oh, the previous one was or.
Nope. Replace a
You can
fighting
do-
style you know with another type, and in addition, if you know any, you can. Any
No, but
maneuvers.
it says you can do one of the following in the top part above it.
Oh, my bad. Sorry, blind. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it's still fine though. I mean, like if you have a Battle Master, if you pick the feat or you pick the fighting style above, or you are a Battle Master, you can swap stuff out, which is pretty handy. And I think should be again. I think it makes sense. They explain that it shows you shifting focus in your martial practice. I think it's perfectly reasonable. I think fighters
Of all the classes, are probably the one you could get away with going, yeah, I know I'm doing this now, because literally all your fighting abilities is based off your own skill and training. Like, yeah, cool, I fuck off for 6 months and I learned how to shoot a bow.
Yeah, or for example, like you have one a fighting style. You have the
I have
dueling
defense.
fighting style.
I have defense.
Do you have dueling?
No, I took defense for armor class.
Okay, never mind. So, well, okay. For toxic, if you're using a spear and you did have dueling, you'd get your +2 damage on that, which is nice. But then it might come around that you come across a dungeon. There's a really really good greatsword in it. I'd rather shift to greatswords now. Great. When you hit one of these levels, swap that out. Take Great Weapon Master, and then you can focus on that instead.
Hell yeah, great weapon fighting. Yeah, that would be a lot of fun. Yeah.
There's maneuver options here as well. This is another part.
One of them.
You love this.
Oh man, it's the second one is the best maneuver in the game.
Bait and switch. Yeah, so they have a couple different ones here. Yeah, ambush, bait and switch, which lets you swap positions with an ally of yours, which is really really good. And you also add your AC or what you roll on the dice to their AC, which is potentially if you're a battle master, that's a D8. That's potentially giving someone well over 25 armor class.
They scale to D10 as well later.
They do, yeah. Well, I'm saying even from the get-go. Bonus, I believe that stays until the start of your next turn.
Yeah.
So for their next turn as well, which will come around, they'll keep that armor class, meaning that they can move, right? Or your creature.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So it doesn't matter if they move or whatever. They can move and they can hold on to that if they want to make a quick escape while you hold off some bad guys. And it's really really great.
I really love it just because it's such a thing of like there's an ally surrounded by enemies, break the lines, charge in, rip them back, jump into the fray, and like, all right, now you're fighting me.
Yeah.
Like, I love it.
You've done it a couple times now in our game, swapping people out, because there's a bit of a they may be in a bit of a tough spot. I think Wabu was cornered by like 3 ghouls or something at one point, up against the carriage, and you swapped positions.
It was when we were fighting the Knight of the Moon. I swap at Wabu during that fight, and because I rolled like my Battle Master die or a D6, because it's an additional feature you get me. So I rolled the 6 on that, and Wabu had a base armor class of like 18 because he's a turtle. So I swapped places with him, and he had 24 armor class until the start of my next turn. It was ridiculous.
It's really really good. So there's a few of them. We won't go through all of them.
Yeah.
There's grappling strike, quick toss, tactical assessment, and there's a few that are just really really cool. And like I said, I think they're really nice. They nicely flesh out what is already a really expansive list of Battle Master maneuvers. There's even more now, with way more stuff you can do, which I really, really love.
I like tactical assessment because it gives me the same kind of feeling that if you know the 7th level Battle Master ability is know your enemy, where you can observe an enemy, an enemy creature for a minute. You can learn 3 things about it. That just gives me more feelings that like I would love them to add more stuff like that to Fighter, where you can do stuff where you can like gauge power outside of a battle, you know. I like that stuff a lot.
It gives me the impression of whenever I think Battle Master, just kind of by default, I think of like an old man who's maybe in his 50s, who's still just about fit enough to fight, but he's like
Sokka's master been around in Avatar.
Yeah, pretty much. He's still capable himself, but he's just been around long enough that the mind and knowing the battlefield is just as important as being able to physically fight on the battlefield. And I do like, even though it's not particularly powerful from a thematic perspective, that 7th level Battle Master ability I do really enjoy, because he's like, imagine just hiding outside an orc fortress. You look up, you see the head orc, and he's able to assess some things about him. He's like, I've fought orcs before. I know what this is about. See that guy there? He's got this and this. We don't want to get tangled up in that. And like, it's just like, it's an old grizzled war vet knowing what to expect, and I think there's something really cool about that.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of that.
Moving on to Monk. Okay, there's some cool stuff in Monk,
Yeah,
and I have a
there is.
bone to pick.
I've been waiting for this.
Okay, so the first one is dedicated weapon. It basically lets you touch a weapon, I believe, as a bonus action. Do you have it open in front of you?
I do, yeah. So, second level monk, you train yourself to use a variety of weapons. Monk weapons, not just simple weapons and short swords. So, whenever you finish a short or long rest, you touch one weapon, focus your key on it, and you can count that as a monk weapon until you use this feature again. So, the weapon you choose, though, does have to meet 3 criteria. It has to be a simple or martial weapon, you have to be proficient with it, and it must lack the heavy and special properties. So, no monks wielding great swords, which broke my heart.
To be fair, these are like the same kind of things, the limitations they put on it with Kensei Monk, yeah, which is fair, which is perfectly fine. And honestly, I've always wanted just to play a monk who uses a longsword, like almost like a katana or something like that. I get why certain classes have certain proficiencies and all this kind of
Crouching
stuff.
Tiger, Hidden Dragon, that shit, man, fuck that.
Exactly. I mean, there's no reason why. Okay, if we're talking about power or we're talking about like breaking something or whatever, giving someone a D8 longsword,
Monks
or
punch
even a
that hard.
D10 longsword, if you will, dual-handed or something, two-handed.
But monks punch that hard. That's the
But monk,
if anyone was against like giving a monk a longsword, I'd be like, you let them punch that hard. You let them do that without a weapon.
well, the thing is, like, they do eventually, but even at like lower levels, like if what's this, level 2? If a monk at level 2 wanted to use a longsword, I'd be like, yeah, absolutely, yeah, sure, why not? Because here's the thing. It's not going to break the game because you have other fighters and barbarians and everything else in the party who are already using these things. So I don't think it's a huge deal. So I think it's nice that a monk can have that. I think it's more style over raw power. It's like, I want my character to be a sword wielder. Can I use this thing? Yes, you can. It's an optional feature. We'll include it. Again, because I feel like when you look at monks, I feel like all those kind of like Eastern swords, like katanas, and what's what I'm trying to think of.
There's the katana. There is the jian, which is the Chinese straight sword.
That's what I was trying to think of. Yeah.
The jian is that the Green Destiny would have been a jian, and the sword that Sokka made would have been a jian as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the meteor sword he made. Yeah. So I mean, like, yeah, those are. I just feel like they come to mind so easily that I'm glad there's now a feature for it here. So okay, here's what I get Renty.
Okay.
Key fueled attack, right? Third level, if you spend a key point or more as part of an action on your turn, so any of the various monk things that allow you to spend key points, you can make one attack with an unarmed strike or a monk weapon as a bonus action before the end of your turn. What this means is, if you can do like a patient defense, or actually that's a bonus action. What I'm saying, you can do any of the monk abilities that let you do this. So, for example, monks at third level, a shadow monk can cast darkness, right? They can use their key points to cast a spell. Let's say they cast darkness, they can now immediately follow that up with a weapon or unarmed strike as a bonus action. Very, very cool. This should have inherently been part of monk overall, if not specifically part of the elemental monk. I have beef. I got mad beef with the elemental monk because conceptually it's one of my favorite subclasses in the entire game. I want, you know me, an avatar. I want it so badly to be so good, but it's flipping dreadful. I'm trying to cut back on cursing. It's
same. It's hard. It's hard.
It's honestly so dreadful though. It really is bad. I have 3. I haven't fleshed it out properly, but I have 3 fixes for the elemental monk. That honestly, if you just encompass these 3 philosophies when redesigning the class, I think it would actually be perfect. It'd be amazing. The first one is synergy, and that's where this one comes in, right? Because as the elemental monk is at the moment, you can, on any turn, you can either do fighty stuff or you can do elemental stuff, but you cannot do fighty elemental stuff, and that's the problem.
Yeah, which is the point of picking an elemental monk. I want to punch someone with fire around my hand.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's a couple ones, like I think Fangs of the Fire Snake lets you do punch, like a fiery punch, but there's very few of those, and my problem is that and also you're spending key points constantly, and you only have 3 at third level. I know, like, you're gonna burn out really, really fast, and you have a bunch of other monk stuff that also needs key points. So my problem there is that you should be able to do elemental thing as an action, bonus action, offhand strike, unarmed strike, sorry.
That's the first thing. The second thing is the cost of the abilities. They're far too expensive. To the point where cast Cone of Cold, which I believe is a 5th level spell, costs 6 key points. By the time you get access to be able to cast that many things, you're burning through almost a third of your key points on a single move. And Cone of Cold is good, but like a third of your key points for a single thing that the enemy may or may not save against.
Yeah.
Doesn't fly. Just doesn't fly. I'd rather have a weaker version of Cone of Cold, where instead of the full damage, it's half the damage, and maybe the cone is smaller, but it only costs me 2 or 3 key points. Because personally, as a design philosophy when it comes to anything D&D, I'd rather be able to do something weaker multiple times than only once, and it's amazing if it hits. But if it fails, I just burnt my only single use of that for this entire fight. That's not fun to me. I'd rather be able to try multiple times, miss a couple times, hit a couple times, and average out on damage. I don't need to be doing 10d10 damage. I'll happily do 3 or 4d10 damage if I can do that 3 times, please.
Yeah, no, fair. I can understand that.
And the final thing then is just on correcting it. They need more passive abilities. They desperately need more passive abilities.
I think Monk are alright for abilities. They kind of have more abilities than the majority of the other classes in 5e.
Well, no, but I mean like passive elemental things. I feel like, I feel like you should, like, if you're an elemental monk, you should probably have one of the disciplines that they can learn be of these damages: fire, cold, ice, acid, thunder, lightning. You gain resistance to one of these, and that should be like one of the 11th level ability things, and it should just be passive. You just have resistance to that damage type, or that elemental damage type. You should be able to.
I think I'd prefer a thing where on a short rest you choose.
Well, okay, that's fair enough. You can attune based on a short rest, but my point is,
Deathwalker ward style, I think, would be the best way to do that.
Yeah, definitely. But my point is, it would be a passive ability. You're not burning key points on it because, again, because if you look at any of the other 2 base monk classes, Open Palm, they have their so initially some of their stuff is when you already do something that burns a key point. So you have to already be doing your flurry of blows to gain one of those sufficient things. You're not burning any additional key points. You're gaining the original effect of spending a key point plus this extra thing. So it's not actually draining you anymore. They get a heal, which is just a once a short rest, I think.
Long rest, and it's 5, but it's long rest, but it's
substantial though.
It's 5 times your monk level.
Yeah, it's really substantial. And again, not cutting into their key points. You look at the Shadow Monk, okay, the 3rd level stuff that they get does eat into their key points, but their 6th level thing, they teleport as long as they're in dim or dark terrain. Passively. They cast a bonus action to do it, or an action, I think. But the point is they can just do it without spending key points. And I know that like some of the others, I think I think their 17th level ability is they get advantage on the first attack they make when they come out of that as well, or something like that. They get a ton of stuff that's just like, you don't need to burn your key points on this. It's just stuff you can do once a day or whatever. There's other restricting factors to it, but the problem is that every single thing that is a subclass ability that you want to do as an elemental monk costs key points. And I hate that. And those are the 3 things I do. I'd make it more synergies. You can mix a little bit of the martial and the elemental. I'd make the cost of abilities cheaper, even if that means making them weaker. And I'd make more passive abilities so that your character can at least passively do some. One of the versions I saw online that I thought just made monks even mildly better was someone gave them a couple elemental cantrips. Not even damaging elemental cantrips, just like the stuff that like mold earth and shape water and stuff like that, and or gust and all these mini things. But they added a bit of flavor that any time you could just go, I snuff a candle,
Yeah.
And it's a little more. I could rant about this for a long time, so we won't get too. Yeah. I was going to say we won't get too hooked up in it. I've already.
You have, yeah, you have. No, Mark Humes, just as his final word, Mark Humes did a really good job redesigning it. I really like the way he took it. He took it where you take certain elemental stances and you can end those stances early in a show of martial prowess with elemental magic as part of it, which is kind of what you're driving at there. But probably better to get back to the main stuff we're talking about today, which is not the elemental monk.
We'll have a whole podcast just for that one.
Oh, Jesus, you can host that one solo.
So next up is Quick and Healing. This one, I didn't feel like monks needed this. Like you said already, monks have a lot of abilities, but
Yeah.
I also don't think it's broken. It's a 4th level ability. As an action, you can spend 2 key points and roll a martial arts die, which do scale up. That's your damaging die. You regain a number of hit points equal to the number rolled plus proficiency. That's basically a cure wounds.
Yeah.
In terms of the power, the cost, it's basically a cure wounds. It is limited that it doesn't say that you can spend 4 or 6 or 8 key points to get more die plus your thing.
Yeah.
The maximum you can do in a single action is
2
martial arts die plus proficiency. Yeah. Which I feel like limits it nicely. You have to burn an action to do it.
Yeah.
So I do feel like that works out very nicely. This might be a little open to being broken. If you finish a fight and you have 4 key points left, right?
Mm-hmm.
Before you take your short rest, you can burn those last 4 key points as 2 actions and gain health back, and then go into your what do you call it? Your die, your hit die, and regain back the rest. So you could potentially burn out the last of your resources and get that back. I don't know. That's not terribly broken, but I suppose warlocks can do the same if you pick like a celestial warlock. If you end up fighting, you still have one of your 5th level slots. You could be like, cool, I'll just use that on a cure wounds there because I'm a celestial warlock and I get back 5d8 plus my mod health. Now I'll take a short rest, get that spell slot back, and get my health health back on hit dice.
You can do the same thing with second wind as a fighter though. Like if you have second wind at the end of a fight, you've taken some damage and you're going to short rest afterwards. You can just second wind, short rest, second wind. And and you can get like that's a D10 plus fighter level. Like if you're a 10th level fighter and you roll 2 10s, that's 40 HP back.
Is it? Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. So that's decent. Like, I suppose there's other stuff like it. It wouldn't be the worst thing in the world either. And it, like I said, I didn't feel monks needed this necessarily, but I like the inclusion. It's nice.
Well, I can see why, because like monks a lot of the time end up in the front lines because they're short ranged. But they don't necessarily have the tank stats to stay there. A lot of the time.
True.
And a lot of the time as well, because with monks you have a 3 skill split because you've Dex, Wisdom, and Con.
Yeah,
and that's probably
so your con is kind of the 3rd one typically.
That's probably the order you will take those in, because it'll be Dex for your hits, Wisdom whether you've spell effects or just to resist spell effects is always golden, and then Con is the 3rd one because I need to live.
Yeah. Yeah. The final one for monks is Focus Aim. This one's pretty cool. If you miss an attack roll, you can spend 1 to 3 key points to increase the attack roll by 2 for each key point spent, potentially turning a hit into a miss. This is really good.
This gives me such vibes of like Goku gathering everybody's power for the Spirit Bomb.
It's just, I mean, it's pretty cool that like you could make an attack roll. The DM could go, ooh, missed it by 1. You go, okay, cool, I spent a key point.
Yeah. No, that I do like that it specifies when you miss as well, not just because a lot of stuff like this in 5e will say like, when you roll an attack but before the outcome is decided. But with focused aim, I do like it specifically. It's like, oh, you've missed. Okay, cool. I activate focused aim and gonna burn a key point. Like in my head, the way I see it is like the arrow flies past the person, and then the archer just like key point, and like their hand glows and the arrow turns in the air and comes back and hits the person behind.
Just like Wanted or something like that.
Like it goes past them and then the key turns on and the arrow literally just does like a full 180, comes back through the back of their head and out. And yes, I did hit my own headphones there.
I do like it. I think it's very, very cool. I think it's... Yeah, I don't know. Again, I love these two a lot. I just don't feel like the monk necessarily... Like you said, the monk is a very beefy class as it is with the amount of stuff they can do. The healing thing makes sense because, like you said, con typically falls by the wayside because Dex and Wisdom tend to be the ones you lean into. But I think the focus aim is pretty cool, particularly if you're playing like a Kensai and you pick archery as one of your things. I think that could be very, very beneficial to you.
Pick an elf, take Elven Prodigy, never miss an attack again.
I was thinking that take the feat so that you get the archery fighting style, then take this ability, then take Elven Prodigy, and if you're playing an elf, and then also I'm pretty sure there's some stuff that makes your weapon a +1, 2, or 3 when you are a Kensai monk. So you could potentially have crazy stats to hit with your bow.
Yeah, it could be sick. Next, I believe, is Paladin.
Paladin. Okay, so Paladin.
Mm-hmm.
There is some interesting stuff here that I quite like.
So some additional spells, not a terrible amount, but paladins aren't heavy casters anyway. Gentle Approach, Pair of Healing, Warding Bond, Spirit Shroud, Summon Celestial, which is very cool.
Yes, those last three are the ones I'm most interested in. Because Warding Bond is class as well. Like Warding Bond is so good if you're more of a protector character. That's so good.
And I think the Summon Celestial thing is just, I mean, it's so on brand. It's really, really on brand.
This is where I become always like, why couldn't a paladin do this before? Like, this seems like you are literally a chosen holy warrior of your god. Like, you know, like, and it's a 5th level as well. And I know from experience, you only get 5th level paladin spells at level 17.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, why was that not there before? Like, that seems like I'm a 17th level paladin. Like, literally, I'm probably like the best follower of my god in this world.
The main one that stands out to me, not in the spells. Although the spells are great. Like, so it's Summon Celestial, amazing. It's up there with Summon Greater Steed.
Yes.
Where you can just summon like an awesome creature to come and fight.
You can summon a rhino. It's great.
But the one of the next section here, we have fighting style options. So additional ones here. There's one that's very specific to paladins. The first one is called Blessed Warrior. You can pick 2 cantrips from the cleric spell list, and they count as paladin spells for you. Charisma is your spellcasting ability. Whenever you gain a level in this class, you can replace these cantrips with other cantrips from the cleric spell list. That fills out such an important missing part of the paladin, because paladins are not ranged fighters, and you can pick like
Guiding Bolt, Sacred Flame.
Sacred Flame is the one because Guiding Bolt is first level.
Oh, okay.
But Sacred Flame, yeah, absolutely. Keep a Sacred Flame on you, and then like you can actually do ranged attacks up to, I think it's 30 feet is the range on Sacred Flame. But I mean, like, even that, it's like it just fills out such a part of paladins that I think they have proficiency in crossbows.
Toll the Dead is also a cleric cantrip.
Toll the Dead, actually, yeah, it's actually really good.
Which rolls d12s if they're injured.
Yeah, that, to be honest, if it's a paladin, they're always up.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so good. And like, again, I know paladins are kind of meant to be more the martial, less of the fighting, and they have crossbows proficiency. Actually, I must say they have proficiency in everything, but they start with a crossbow, I believe. Yeah. But I just, again, I never feel the need to use a crossbow or even a bow really as a paladin. The fact that you can do this, you don't have to swap out weapons. You can just have a free hand and blast someone is really, really cool. They also have blind fighting and interception. They have the harness divine power thing, which is the exact same as the clerics we talked about earlier. Great ability, and the martial versatility of the fighters as well, where they can swap out their fighting style.
You can really see how like paladin is like exactly the midpoint between fighter and cleric, can't you? With the optional features it has there, because it's got martial versatility from fighter, it's got harness divine power from cleric.
Yeah.
It's got where is it? And then it's
martial versatility.
Yeah, and then it's got 2 fighter fighting styles, and then a specific one for paladin. Like
which makes it more like a cleric. So it's exactly that. All while being a charisma-based caster, which is very, very beneficial.
Yeah. You get some good spells as a paladin.
Up next is Ranger.
Hey.
Finally, the Ranger is fixed.
So, folks,
the Ranger is viable.
This is where I'm going to take a short sojourn from speaking, and Conor is going to get everything off his chest that he's had to since when he made his first D&D character, which was a Ranger.
I didn't know any better. It sounded cool, okay? I played a Ranger for a couple of years.
2 or 3, yeah.
Up to about level 6 or 7 or something like that. It was fine. I enjoyed it. It was my first character. I enjoy archery. It might have been archer. Good fun. Then I started running my own game and playing other characters in one-shots and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh, Rangers suck. I guess I just didn't know this up until now because I'd only ever played a Ranger.
I'm just gonna hang on, this reclines. There we go.
Ranger. I there's just some stuff at Ranger I have some really salty memories about. There's some good. Okay, so basically, a couple of the things get flat out replaced early on. Actually, when I was making up my notes, Rangers have way more than any other class in terms of optional features. So obviously, Wizards have heard the community when they realize that they don't like certain things about Ranger.
And they tried. Also, I think they had 2 other revisions of the class that came out in UAs as well.
Yeah, and I think they were ultimately scrapped, I think.
Yeah. It was always a weird one though, because it was like you can play the Handbook Ranger or this UA Ranger if your DM's okay with it, and it's like your DM better be okay with it. This is this is clearly the better option here. So Rangers, they get a couple things. First of all, Natural Explorer is something that Rangers get. I'm actually gonna bring up the old Ranger class
I think
now.
Did Natural Explorer just give you you didn't have to worry about like difficult terrain. You weren't.
I mean, there was a couple of features to it, right? So Natural Explorer, as it shows up. 1 second now. Class features. Okay, so you get to pick your favored terrain, right? You also get to pick an additional favorite terrain type when you hit 6th and 10th level. You get to choose between Arctic, Coast, Desert, Forest, Grassland, Mountain, Swamp, or Underdark. This is okay. It's not terrible, but they give you a bunch of different things, right? The problem is they're very situational because they only work if you're in your favorite terrain. So you get a difficult terrain doesn't slow your group's travel. If you're doing a hex crawl, that could be potentially very beneficial. Something like Tomb of Annihilation. Your group can't become lost except by magical means. Even when you are engaged in another activity while traveling, such as foraging, navigating, tracking, you remain alert to danger. If you're traveling alone, you can move stealthily but at a normal pace, so you're not reducing your speed. When you forage, you find twice as much food as you normally would. And while tracking other creatures, you learn the exact number, their size, and how long ago they passed through the area. There's some stuff in there that's really cool. And if you're really going for that, like I live in the wilds kind of person, where they hunt and they track and they defend the board, like Rangers are kind of meant to be, they defend the borders of society. That's really, really cool. The problem is it's very situational because you have to be in a certain environment to do it. And as you level, it becomes easier because you get maximum of 3 at level 10 different environments. The problem is your campaign may not always be there, or you might spend improportional amounts of time in different parts of the campaign. You might want to build someone who's like a ranger from the frozen north, kind of like Game of Thrones style. And then you're like, yeah, so Arctic is my terrain. And the DM's like, cool. And then the campaign starts, and they're like, so we begin in a roasting hot desert. And you're like, cool, half my abilities are gone already. Okay. And like that, maybe that campaign will make its way north at some point, or it might not for the entire campaign.
Or it might only go there once.
Sorry?
Or it might only go there once.
Or it might go there once for like 3 or 4 sessions, and then that arc is done, and then you're back to not being able to use these abilities again.
Yeah.
It's a real problem. Again, even when you could kind of play your odds as best as you can. Pick forest, grassland, mountain, probably going to come up. Pick Underdark. Most campaigns I've been part of or run myself typically have some stretch in the Underdark. I like the Underdark particularly. But again,
noticed.
Sorry?
Haven't noticed.
No. Wait till the next Underdark stretch. It's all just snakes and underground and darkness. Martin doesn't like snakes, so I put them into my D&D game all the time. Yeah, so I did this. It's so situational. Is the problem with it, right? I have a particular problem with this because of an event that happened in the campaign you and I first played him, where a DM made a very poor ruling. Am I salty about it? Yes, I am. Okay, don't know. To be fair, look, it pointed out to me the exact problem. So what happened was, at the time we were in a forest. It was described that we were in a forest. We were tracking some people. I found some footprints, and I was like, "Oh," I said to the DM, "We're in our favorite terrain. I'm in my favorite terrain, so I should know their exact number, their size, and how long ago they passed through here." And what the DM said to me was, "Oh, well, your favorite terrain is forest, and this is actually woodland." And I said, are they not the same? I think they're the same thing. And he said, "No, they're different." And I was like, and at the time, I didn't know the game well enough to argue it, so I just kind of took it. And it wasn't until, like, I'd say maybe a year or two later, I was reading over the Ranger class again, and I saw Arctic, Coast, Desert, Forest, Grassland, Mountain, Swamp, Underdark, no mention of Woodland. And I was like, right, so that was just a particular moment of poor DMing and left an overall bad experience with this particular ability for me. that's that, right? This is, if you choose, is now replaced with Deft Explorer. I actually really, really like this. It gives me really good like Breath of the Wild vibes. So you get one proficiency. Choose one of your skill proficiencies. Your proficiency bonus is double for checks you make using a chosen skill. Always, I love expertise. If you get expertise at any point, I love it. You can also speak, read, and write 2 additional languages of your choice. Not the most. That's like a ribbon thing. If it only sometimes comes up, but I like the option of getting additional
languages is always really good. I don't care if it's a ribbon. I think the more things you can understand in a D&D game as your character without metagaming, I think is always the better.
Absolutely. That's at the first level. That's really nice. This has additional features you get later on. At 6th level, you get a thing called roving. Your walking speed increases by 5, and your climbing and swim speed, you get a climbing speed and a swim speed equal to your walking speed. That's the part that gives me Breath of the Wild vibes.
Yeah.
You know, swimming through rivers or climbing up the side of a cliff face or something like that. I really, really love that.
Again, though, it's another thing you would expect someone who literally spends all of their time outside in the wilderness to be able to do.
Yeah, absolutely. The 10th level thing then is called Tireless, as it actually gives us a temporary. I gave this to our Bloodhunter because Bloodhunters don't have any optional features, and all you guys are picking optional features a while back. So I said the Bloodhunter can have some of the Ranger stuff. So he uses this all the time. As an action, you give yourself some temporary hit points equal to DA plus your Wisdom mod. You can use this action a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus. You regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. Really, really cool. Just a little bit of a buff. It's like a Ranger.
You left out the very last part of it there, which is also really good.
Sorry. In addition, whenever you finish a short rest, your exhaustion level, if any, is decreased by 1. So that's actually really beneficial. I didn't even know that part. So if you have an exhaustion level, rather than having a long rest, it only takes a short rest to get rid of a level of it. That's insane. You could lose multiple levels of exhaustion.
Yeah, I was gonna say you could take 2 points of exhaustion at like the start of the day, and you have just a short rest in the morning and a short rest in the afternoon, and you've the rest of the day you've no exhaustion.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, that makes sense. Makes sense now why it's called Tireless, actually.
Mm-hmm. But that's really cool on both fronts, because that's really cool in and of itself. Also, to be able to heal yourself with some temp HP, that to me kind of is like a ranger in the wilds who is a ranger in the wilds who is basically like what do you call them? They're out in the middle of nowhere, so they have to basically like, I'm miles from the next town. Just gotta push on, take a deep breath, keep walking, straight line, and don't think about the fact that I'm tired or hungry or whatever. And that kind of like makes sense. You just gotta keep going. They're used to trekking hundreds of miles over land and stuff like that. I think it's a really cool ability.
It's awesome.
I'm gonna fly through the rest of these because I feel like I'm lingering too much. There's favorite foe instead of favorite enemy. Previously, favorite enemy lets you choose 2 enemy types. Again, the same problem with Natural Explorer. It's very selective and it's very what's the word I'm looking for? Right, Specific. No, that's not the word. Situational. It's very situational. Where you might pick undead and aberrations, which if you're playing in my current D&D campaign is very beneficial. But if due to your backstory you pick dragons and I don't know,
humanoids? No, humanoids
giants,
as always works.
Yeah. You pick giants and dragons. Well, you're probably not gonna get as much benefit out of that because I put no dragons in my campaign so far, and only a handful of giants.
Yeah.
So I mean, like it's again, it's the same problem. It's just way too situational. And now I wouldn't say what we have is basically kind of a not gonna say dumbed down, but an alternate version almost of your what?
Streamlined. It's a streamlined.
It's like a streamlined version of Hunter's Mark that isn't a spell.
Mm-hmm.
When you hit a creature with an attack roll, you can call a mystical bond, which will mark the target as your favorite enemy for 1 minute, or until you lose concentration, as if you were concentrating on a spell. For the first time on each of your turn you hit a creature, you get an additional D4 damage. You can use this feature a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus. You regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. The feature's extra damage also scales up to a D6 at 6th level and a D8 at 14th level. So that's useful in literally every single combat.
Yep.
Literally every single combat, you can get the benefit of that additional damage. You can track the enemy for up to a minute if they try to. That's just Hunter's Mark. I'm getting mixed up with just Hunter's Mark. Point is, you get additional bit of damage on that person and can continue, like especially if you're fighting a big monster where all your team are ganging up on this one giant or dragon or something like that. this is really, really beneficial just to buff out your amount of damage output and stuff like that.
Yeah, I really like it scales as well. Dan, this is not just a static. It lets it feel more powerful as you get more powerful.
Anything that scales in this game, I absolutely adore. Additional ranger spells. There's some good stuff in here. We have
Searing. Ooh, Searing Smite. I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, the only problem is it doesn't work with bows because it has a melee attack.
Yeah.
I believe in it.
I don't know about you, but in my head, Rangers always like has a bow and a sword.
Yeah, oh yeah, they're very versatile, or they kind of are typically. I think I have
they get Revivify now. That's new.
Yeah, they do, and also they get a bunch of elemental. Like my favorite stuff of all these spells, they get Searing Smite, they get Magic Weapon, they get Elemental Weapon, they get that's about it. But they get a bunch of extra weapon augmentation stuff.
Melded to Stone is really cool for a ranger to have. Melded to Stone.
Yeah, for like ambushes and stuff.
Yeah, like you're trying to track them down, and like he breaks sight around the corner, and then you come around. There's just a field.
Sinks into the wall.
Yeah, it sinks into a mountain. Yeah.
I like anything that augments rangers' weapons. They have a few other spells like Cordon of Arrows, Hail of Thor, and
Conjure Barrage.
Conjure Barrage. I think they're all really, really cool spells. I just feel like Paladins for me have always been way better at weapon augmentation spells, and I like just to see a couple extra ones thrown in for Ranger there. There's also other stuff in here, like there's a bunch of other healing stuff, like Revivify, God, I can't speak, Greater Restoration, there's Summon Elemental, which is very cool, Summon Beast, it's just a few other ones here that maybe make it a little more druidy, but not too much. I really, really love it, I really do.
Yeah, totally.
They get a similar ability to Paladin, so they have blind fighting in their fighting style options. They have thrown weapons, again, really, really cool. Mm-hmm. They have Druidic Warrior, which is basically the same, I believe, as the Cleric one for Paladins.
Yeah, exactly. The Blessed Warrior,
yeah. You get a couple extra things. Again, so that actually kind of works if you do want to do a melee-based, a melee-based ranger, like Aragorn, you carry a longsword or something like that, or a longsword and a shield. And then you get these two things, and you're like, cool, and I have cantrips as well. I can do some ranged attacks without having to swap out to a bow or swap back. You could even take a couple other things like, I don't know, Thorn Whip or Poison Spray if you wanted something a little more up close. Thorn would be great, actually, Thorn Whip, because you can pull people in with that, right? I believe Thorn Whip you can.
I think so. I've never played a character that's ever taken Thorn Whip.
They also have a change to their, again, I can't fly through this way faster because there's way too much here. They have a thing called Primeval Awareness, which previously let you detect for a cost of a spell slot, which is, a pretty high cost for rangers. They don't get a lot of them.
Yeah. It
would let you detect if any of your favorite enemies were within a mile of you, I believe, and you know the direction of them.
Yes.
Maybe not even direction, I have to double check that. The problem with that, though, is, again, high cost. Or with up to 6 miles if you're in your favorite terrain, and it tells you if they're there. The creature doesn't reveal the creature's location or number. I mean, so that's not super helpful. With this, you basically just get 5 other spells: Speak with Animals, Beast Sense, Speak with Plants, Locate Creature, Commune with Nature. Those are way more useful because you also get a free casting of each of them once a day.
Locate Creature in particular is really good.
Really, really good. So like, you get a free casting of these once a day without having to go into your spell slots, and then you can spend additional spell slots if you want. Super, super cool.
Yeah.
Martial Versatility, we covered that already.
Yeah.
There's Nature's Veil, which replaces Hide in Plain Sight. Hide in Plain Sight ability to use a minute or 10 minutes to camouflage 1 minute to camouflage yourself with dirt and plants and stuff, which actually kind of works. I don't really have much of a problem with Hide in Plain Sight. This is probably one of the few ones I could go either way.
I much prefer this.
Nature's Veil, you draw on the power of nature to hide yourself. It's a bonus action. You can become magically invisible along with any equipment that you're wearing and carrying until the start of your next turn. You can use this feature a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus and regain all expended use when you finish a long rest. That's basically the same thing that Furbolgs have, right?
I think so, yeah.
They can cast invisible. I don't think it's a bonus action. I think it's still just an action. But they can turn invisible until the start of the next turn. Once. So if you pair up a Furbolg and this, you actually get a nice ability just to drop out of combat, turn invisible, run away, opportunity attacks are on disadvantage, pretty cool. I do like it.
Rogue now. Which
Rogue
may be the shortest.
Yeah, rogue is 1.
It's really good though. Oh, yeah, absolutely. So for rogues at 3rd level, you can take steady aim. As a bonus action, you give yourself advantage on your next attack roll on the current turn. You can use this bonus action only if you haven't moved this turn and after you use the bonus action. And after you use the bonus action, your speed is 0 until the end of the current turn. So it's basically you're stopping stock still for a second on your turn before, like you're not moving, you're staying where you are, so you can get a really good shot in that, and that's particularly good for rogues because if they have advantage on an attack, they have sneak attack. So now you can literally, if you want to just not move, you can just always have sneak attack.
Yeah, I mean, if you take up a good position up on a raised position or at the back row of your party fighting, all the fighters and barbarians run up and then you hang back. As long as you're willing to perch in the same position, it basically makes it way easier to be an archery rogue.
Yeah, I just had nightmares flash through my mind about this of my swash. I don't think my swashbuckler is aware that he has this. As an option.
Oh, okay.
And he's swashbuckler gunslinger now, and I can just see him go, yeah, I don't need to move.
Yeah.
I've
hold my ground, take aim.
I have a 6-shooter. I can hit everything.
We have next up we have Sorcerer. They get a ton of additional spells.
Yes, they do.
Including Blade of Disaster at 9th level, which is
I so want to use that spell. You literally use a living. It's like it's an active planetary, like an active dimensional tear, and you create it. You use it as a sword. It's so ridiculous. I love it.
It's really, really powerful. It's absolutely insane. It's a 9th level spell though. So really, you're only talking about your sorcerers and wizards.
It's a planar rift. Yeah. Sorry, not a dimensional rift. A planar rift.
A lot of cool stuff in there though to get a lot of extra spells, which I feel like flesh them out quite nicely.
Sorcerers get Bigby's hand.
I love that.
I have an undying love for Bigby's hand purely from campaign 1 Critical Role. Yeah. But also it hits like a truck. Like if you just punch someone with the hand, it hurts really bad.
I do feel like the one complaint a lot of people have about sorcerers is the lack of spells and the lack of spell versatility. I feel like adding these in is a nice bump to the class.
Ooh.
We also have meta magic options.
Yes, these are really cool. These are the things that I like the most out of everything that sorcerers get from these. These 2 meta magic options, I was like, yes, this is what I want out of a sorcerer, particularly the second one.
So first one is Seeking Spell. Is that just re-roll with 2 sorcery points?
It's basically 2 sorcery points re-roll the d20, use the new roll.
That's really, it's on your attack rolls. For any spell for that is missed, you can just re-roll. That's pretty handy. Kind of up your level of being able to hit or your hit to miss ratio.
Yeah, well, if you cast like a 7th level chromatic orb at someone, that's an attack roll. You can still roll a 1 on that, and then your 7th level spell slot is gone.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, and then speaking of chromatic orb, because chromatic orb has a bunch of different damage types. With this new one here called Transmuted Spell, I do love this. I really do love this.
This is everything sorcerer should be. What this spell does. This for me is what a sorcerer should be able to do. Is like, oh yeah, I know all these spells. I know all the same spells. Although they're the same spells as a wizard, but a wizard can't do what I can do with the spells.
Yeah. They're artists when it comes to spells. Wizards are engineers.
that is perfect. That is exactly what they are.
As someone who studied engineering for a while, I can tell you, engineers they're pretty to the point.
A shocking amount of my friends are engineers, actually, and so you're right.
So this basically lets you spend a sorcery point, which is crazy. That's 1 sorcery point to change the damage type of. It can either be acid, cold, fire, lightning, poison, or thunder, and you can change it to any of the other ones in that list.
If I play a sorcerer, this is the first meta magic I'm taking.
Same.
This means you always have an ace in the hole, and it only costs you 1 sorcery point.
I would literally always. What I would do is I would play sorcerer. I do storm sorcerer. I would take fireball and I would use thunder fireballs or lightning fireballs, because it's one sorcery point. That's nothing, especially when you get to like higher levels in. And what if you do can you do a cast a spell that deals damage? Yeah. Okay. I'm pretty sure. Let me just check.
Twin spell, transmuted spell. Change the damage types on both spells.
I need to Oh,
Dude, you could fuck up Tiamat with this spell.
1 sec now.
Well, actually, hang on.
Tell me.
Oh, okay. No, sorry. Actually, you couldn't fuck up Tiamat with this spell. My apologies.
Okay, I had to double check. Sorcerers get Wall of Fire. You can cast Wall of Lightning.
Wall of Acid.
Or Wall of Acid. I like Wall of Lightning though. But I mean, you're basically creating an electric fence.
Oh yeah, that's sick.
That's really cool. I mean, the only qualification for it is that it has to be a spell that deals one of those damage types. Other than that, you can just swap it out instantly. I mean, it's so versatile because if you're any type of you take Fireball, and that's like your go-to big powerful spell, and you come up against a red dragon, well, your ace in the hole is now suddenly not as useful. But if you just go, I'll just swap that over to Acid, and then boom, Acid Ball, done. Really, really cool. Really, really good. Sorcerer Versatility, this is that you swap out it's similar to previous versatilities. Swap out a metamagic drop-in or a cantrip on an ability score level. Magical Guidance.
This is really... I love this.
You can tap into your inner wellspring of magic and try to conjure success from failure. When you make any ability check that fails, you can spend a sorcery point to reroll the d20 and you must use a new roll, potentially turning success into failure. That's almost like luck.
I was just
That's
thinking,
basically the same mechanic as luck. If you took luck as well, you would almost never fail any ability checks.
Like, how often is it? I just 1 sorcery point, so you could actually do this a lot as well.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing. The cost of these things is so low. You're really not in that bad of a position to do these. I can't get over the Transmuted Spell thing.
I suppose. I think, don't you get your meta magic as a sorcerer from level 2?
Level 2, yeah.
Yeah. So
it might be. It's level 3, I believe.
Okay.
You get sorcery points at level 1, but I think they can only be used to swap in and out spell slots, and then at level 3 you get your meta magics.
Oh, okay, I get you. Yeah, like it. I think that's why the cost is so low, because they're taking into consideration that this will be something you will get in your first 3 levels and will need to be able to use. And what you have, like 3 sorcery points at 3rd level.
It's equal to your level.
Yeah,
There's like, I forget what it is. There's one level, I think it's like level 11 or something like that, where for some reason you just don't get one, and then the next level you get one again. And it's just one of the levels you just don't get a sorcery point. Because I want to say, who's the guy who did all the D&D Beyond videos? I'm blanking on his name.
Todd Kenrick.
His wife Megan talked about this in the video where she played a sorcerer and she was really enjoying it until she hit level 11 or whatever it was, and she was like, what the hell is this? I don't get a sorcery point this level? And it was like, yeah, that's just for some reason one of the levels you just don't get a sorcery point.
It's so weird, but I guess it must just be something that they had to do to balance. It must be a balance.
There's probably a balance issue there, but again, it's just, let me just double check now. Okay, sorcery points 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. No, they're all there. Maybe I'm missing something, or maybe it's a misprint. I don't know.
I don't think we have time to check.
We don't. We'll have to...
At a later date.
Okay.
Yeah, because we still have Warlock and Wizard to get through.
Okay. Up next, we have Sorcerer, Warlock. Okay, if we're making it quick, Warlock, to get some additional spells. They get Eldritch Versatility, which lets them swap out their cantrips, I believe, and then they get Eldritch Invocations, which is just cantrips and invocations.
Big one. You get another pack boon option, pack to the talisman.
I was gonna spin back to it.
Sorry.
So they get Eldritch Versatility, which gives you the ability to swap out cantrips and the ability to swap out your invocations. They get some additional invocation options, which I always fucking love because I love invocations. They're amazing. Warlock, one of my favorite design classes because they get so many options. Give me more options on a Warlock. I'll never stop wanting options for Warlocks. And then they get a new Pact Boon option, which is a Talisman.
Yes.
Works very well, I think, because the Genie was introduced in this book as well. The Genie subclass. Or Patron, I should say. Mm-hmm. And I think that was probably done with intent, I believe. Yeah. And there's some we won't get into them, but there are some invocations that work with your talisman, where you can like teleport and a few other cool things like that, or really buff out your allies. You can, let's see here now. Pact of the Talisman. Your patron gives you an amulet, a talisman that can aid the wearer when need is great.
when the wearer fails an ability check, you can add a d4 to the roll, potentially turning it into a success. You can benefit from this effect a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and you restore uses on a long rest. So basically, it's kind of like an after the fact guidance almost.
Yeah.
Which is really nice. Again, I love anything that kind of, I think skills, anything that's like makes you more skillful in the same way that earlier on the Barbarian got more proficiencies and stuff like that. I feel like Warlocks are maybe one of those where they're very focused on magic, so they don't have a lot of skills. This kind of, I think, buffs that out nicely. If you lose your talisman, you can spend an hour to get it back in a special ceremony, and the talisman turns to ash when you die. Very cool. I can see a lot of different new Warlocks coming out of this, because previously we had the Chain, the Tome, and the Blade.
And Hexblade. Chain, Tome, Blade. Oh, sorry, yeah, sorry. The
Hexblade's a patron.
Yeah, my bad. Yeah, Chain, Tome, and Blade are your three.
And Talisman, I actually think Talisman is a really, really cool. And like, it fits perfectly. It just fits so well. I think it pairs nicely with Genie as well.
Anytime I hear the word talisman, I automatically think Jackie Chan Adventures.
Yes. Oh my god. What a show. And finally, we come to the Wizard. Now, the Wizard doesn't have much. They get a nice bump in terms of the new spells added to their spell list. Mm-hmm. Really nice, fleshes things out very, very nicely. They don't need them. Wizards have the most spells of anyone, but they got them.
Yeah.
And then we got ourselves cantrip formulas. So this is an interesting one. You ascribe a set of arcane formulas in your spellbook and can use it to formulate a cantrip in your mind. Whenever you finish a long rest and consult those formulas in your spellbook, you can replace one wizard cantrip with another wizard cantrip on the spell list. So whereas everybody else gets to wait until 4th level or any of their other ASIs or every level or something like that,
you need an ASI.
Like, yeah. Nah, on a long rest, I'll just swap this one for that one. No bigs. As if Wizards didn't have enough going for them already in terms of spellcasting.
This is the rich old white dude being like, I deserve that bonus.
Yeah. It's like everyone else is signed up to a really, really bad mobile phone plan, and you're just like, oh really? I get unlimited minutes. But yeah, it's really good. Again, Wizards get a lot of stuff back in a long rest. The only thing they don't like, they have arcane recovery,
yeah.
And this kind of allows them a little more flexibility again, which I really like. Again, I would have been okay with Wizards swapping out cantrips on a long rest, but I do like the inclusion of this, and I think it's very nice that they specifically get to do it. It's a very cool feature, and again, it's like it makes sense because Wizards are like the intellectual ones. They sit down. They're like scribbling in a book, like, yeah, I think I can figure out shocking grass. Give me. I'll work on it tonight, and I'll come back to you tomorrow morning. And then they scribble down some notes, and they work out the equation. And the next morning at breakfast, they're like, check it out, electric porridge, and they just like electrify something on the table. Because I don't know, it just makes sense that they should be able to walk away, examine something, and work it out in their head, and then you should be able to see the effects of such a thing.
Yeah.
But Martin, that's optional class features. We got a bit of a race there towards the end. I apologize for our viewers. We kind of got too caught up early on, and then I think flew through the last. But the good thing is, Sorcerer, Warlock, and Wizard, most of what they have is additional spells, versatility, blah blah blah. So a lot of stuff we've seen already.
A lot of it gets repeated, and just applied to the other classes. It's all. The good thing about it is it's all laid out really clearly. When you read it, you can usually get it straight away, if not after a second or third reading. And if you don't know, you can always tweet Jeremy Crawford.
Yeah, he loves when you tweet him at all hours of the day, asking questions to clarify rules. Yeah, but Martin.
Yes, Connor.
That's all the time we have for today.
That was eye-opening experience, I must say, because I had, like I said, I think I said at the start, I'd forgotten. After we did Tasha's, I'd forgotten most of what the other classes got as optional things, to be honest.
I was just reading up on them during the week and stuff like that, and I thought there's a lot of really cool stuff in here. So I thought it'd be really good to talk about. I'm really tired. Between all the technical issues and scrambling to get my microphone working, and then rushing through the last of those bits, I'm so tired. I'm actually drained. But yes, folks, thank you so much for joining us. Martin, wait, no, that's not the part of the outro I wanted. If you have any questions you'd like us to ask, stories you'd like us to share, or topics you would like us to cover, please tweet us at Micflayers pod on Twitter. You can see it on the lower screen. You can find our podcast on YouTube, Spotify, and now on Google Podcasts, Anchor, Breaker, and Radio Republic. Martin, where can people find you on the internet?
Mostly I can be found on Twitter. So sorry, it's over, which is in the bottom right hand corner of my screen. Also on the Micflayers podcast, which Conor has pointed out for you in the bottom right hand corner of our screen. Also, but really mostly you will find me here every Friday, 6 p.m. Irish time, and a new episode of the Micflayers podcast.
Woohoo! You can find me on Twitter at 0.Conor, ZEROPOINTCONOR, 1N, very important. And as Martin just said, very eloquently, every Friday at 6 p.m. Irish time here on the Micflayers podcast. So folks, thank you so much for watching. It's been really, really good. Martin, thank you so much for joining me.
Welcome.
I'm going to go get something to eat.
Yeah.
Because I'm hungry and tired.
All right. Later, folks.
Later, folks. Enjoy.
Bye-bye.